Welcome to the Friday Power Lunch, a weekly show amplifying the voices of the Virginia grassroots. Each week, we provide engaging conversations about politics, culture, and women making change. Produced by the unstoppable women of Network Nova, our motto is, when we vote, we win. The Friday Power Lunch is recorded before a live Zoom audience. Follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and show us some love and become a sponsor through Patreon. The Friday Power Lunch. Badass women getting things done.
So let's get this party started. I want to say that it is May 12th, Mother's Day weekend, and welcome to the Friday Power Lunch. I'm Catherine White, your host, bringing you the guests, the issues, and the action, because we amplify the voice of the grassroots to get things done and to make politics super, super fun. And that takes some work. So I'm glad you're here to see it, swinging into action about it. So what is our theme today? It's Swing in Blue, Step into Win. And today's guest will be highlighting all the ways that we can step into action. So I want to bring up, let's give a power lunch welcome to our first guest, Kelly Johnson, Moms Demand Action. And Kelly, so great to have you here. The topic, so important, gun violence protection. And so Mother's Day weekend, what is your Mother's Day message?
You know what? This Mother's Day in particular, Moms Demand Action across the nation's got a big message, and that is we don't want cards. We don't want a spa day. We don't want flowers. We want to reinstate the assault weapons ban, and we're going to be getting loud about that all day on Saturday in preparation for Mother's Day. So that's where we are. I'll tell you more later.
I know you will. And you have your Orange Day to talk about, and just so great to have you here and talking about even all summer long and into the fall, getting into action with Moms Demand. Great group to be involved in. So thank you, Kelly, for being here. We'll be talking to you in a little bit. So hold on. And next up, talking about getting into action, Susan Labandibar, a co-lead of Swing Blue Alliance and the Field Leaders Research Network. We're so excited to have you here, Susan. Thank you. And I love how you talk about activism being messy, not perfect. Such a great topic for Mother's Day as well. So what is your message for Mother's Day today?
Well, my message was actually more about President Biden and getting a little nerdy, and he cut child poverty in half in the first year in office. And you can go to the whitehouse.gov website and get his Mother's Day message and a lot of other great messages that you can post on social media.
That's great. And thank you. And I'm so excited to learn about what Swing Blue Alliance has to tell us in their research, and that you empower change makers to make sure they have the support they need. Thank you so much, Susan. And next up, I want to introduce everybody to Jody Rein, and she's reigning in the truth for sure. Indivisible Truth Brigade. So excited to have you here, Jody, and talking about what you do. I mean, how important, using the grassroots to really, person by person, to really combat the lies, right?
Right.
Amazing. So today, being on this Power Lunch today, what is your message for Mother's Day when it comes to telling the truth? Didn't our mothers always say to tell the truth?
Yeah, it would be nice if a few politicians we know, mothers, had told them that maybe a little more vehemently. But yeah, I as a volunteer, I was thinking about what kind of message to bring. I work for Indivisible, and I remember when I first got involved with Indivisible and doing volunteer work and activism work, I kept my kids in mind. It was being a mother that actually drove me to want to shift careers and move into making a difference myself and thinking about the future. And I'm sure, everybody on this call had a mother, and probably a lot of the people on this call have children and probably got involved for the same reasons. So I just say, more power to you all. Thank you all for everything that you do, and have a great Mother's Day.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jody. We'll be real excited to unpack the truth with you. So thanks for coming into the room with us. And speaking of someone swinging by all the way from Columbus, Ohio, we have Matt Caffrey here, director of the grassroots organizing for Swing Left. You know, new dad though. We're talking about Mother's Day, and you're a new dad yourself. So how do you balance that Mother's Day? Because I know you're over there caretaking.
Yeah, that's right. Well, first of all, I will need to make sure I pamper my wife properly this weekend. I try to be an extremely involved dad, but there's certain things I just can't do. And so she is working hard. But anyway,
Yes.
My Mother's Day message, though, is that no one should ever become a mother that doesn't want to be. And forced birth, forced pregnancy is immoral, and we have to stand up and fight against it. That is at stake in Virginia this year. It is at stake very much in my home state here in Ohio. Yes. And we got a lot of work to do. So thanks for having me.
That's a great message, such a great message, and for such a great organization that will be swinging into Virginia, because that is, we'll talk about it later, but that's the issue in Virginia we're going to talk about, and voting rights. So thank you, Matt, for being here. And the last stop, talking about swinging in all the way up from Virginia Beach, we have Michael Feggans here, candidate in HD 97. Hello, Michael. How are you? There you are.
Hey. I'm doing good. It's good to see so many of y'all. Love how much work and excellence y'all did last year down here in Hampton Roads. And so thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for just everything, serving your country. We can't wait to unpack what's happening down in Virginia Beach with you. Somebody that served overseas, you must have worried a lot of people, and your mom, family. So what do you have a message for Mother's Day?
Yeah, my message for Mother's Day is that unfortunately I lost someone just really close to me that I consider my mother, and her message, and one of the reasons that I'm running now is looking out for those less fortunate. And so my message would be for if you can this weekend, help someone out who's less fortunate, no matter their mother or father or whoever they are, because that's how we're going to make a lot of change and continue to make changes, by looking out for those who can't.
Yes, that's a beautiful, beautiful message. Thank you, Michael. We look forward to getting with you later in the show. So thank you for stepping up to run and being with us today. Awesome. All right. So before we get started, it's the news. We'll start out with the rules of the road. Please use the chat to communicate. We love a vibrant room. Tell us right now what maybe plans you have this weekend. Love to hear about a story about your mom, something important. I lost my mom. Gosh, it's been a million years ago. She was only 60. So this weekend, I will be thinking about her and thinking about the ways I'm going to make the world a better place. So join me with that. I'd love to hear it in the chat. But if you get kind of nasty, in the chat, stare over there. She's the bouncer. She'll kick you out. She has no qualms about that because she's the mother of the chat. And remember the after chat, 1:00. This is where it happens. We love to get together and talk, turn everything off, and just talk about what's on our mind. If guests can stick around, great. If not, we understand you're busy. So please join us for the after chat and support the show. We love the patrons in the room. You could see some of them have the back Zoom special one they get every week, and special activities to be a patron. So become a supporter. We love our supporters. Thank you so much in advance, as we say. And I want to bring up somebody. Oh, first of all, I want to bring up Fennell Norton, because this is what we do. We like to have our little chat. But I also, as she comes up, talk about the Women's Summit real quick. We'll talk about it more, but get your ticket for the Women's Summit. Fennell, do you have your?
Yeah, I got my ticket. I got my ticket weeks ago.
Okay, July 22nd, 23rd, with a bonus on Friday, the 21st. Delegate Sam Rasool and the coalition leader, Louisa Borowski, and all the grassroots leaders. Hopefully Swing Left, we'll have them there, Sister District, and all the groups working in Virginia. Friday night, we'll have some special activities because we are going to swing in the state, and we're going to get it done. So that's my pitch for the Women's Summit. Let's talk about you and Mother's Day. You're so close to your mom all the time. You are bringing her places. What are you doing this weekend that's special?
So I try to celebrate my mother absolutely every day, of which I get a lot of flack from my sister and brother and cousins because they think I really spoil her. So I will continue to do what I always do and spoil my mother. But I'll tell you who I'm thinking about today as one bad shut your mouth, and that's E. Jean Carroll.
Oh, yes. Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the gifts we want for Mother's Day. One is accountability.
Yeah, accountability. No one is above the law. It should be applied equally. And I think that this is one time where we got most of it right. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I think a lot of women are probably taking stock into what happened, the amount of courage she had, what a badass she really was to take this on. And I think we are really, really happy to see some real accountability around that. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I got up my pink hat on that day, and I'm going to wear it on Mother's Day too. I mean, I think about 7 years ago when women rose up to march. 7 years later, this is the thing that kind of we're back at. To see that accountability is just awesome. And the jeopardy that he's in from, let's talk about the next wish, that media and journalism reports responsibly and doesn't give their platform to madmen. And that's exactly what we saw the other day with that, town hall kind of spectacle. And that I think, especially after today, we got the verdict to bring up this individual one that was accused of really sexual assault. And the next day to let him go rant and rave some more. Well, I think he's going to be in legal jeopardy again. But let's talk about that CNN town hall.
Yeah, so I do think it was a train wreck. And I think it was really hard for a lot of people to watch, to see the things he said. I think if I had to think about one good thing, that people would have to know that the man is stark raving nuts. And I hope that that's enough to sort of have people have some ammunition to talk to their friends and family and feel pretty good about the conversation, because so many things that we might have been thinking about or you've been trying to talk to somebody about, he actually said them out loud and on TV and in front of people. And for anyone who just has a little bit of sanity, we can certainly have some much better conversations around that. But it was very disappointing to see CNN do that.
Well, I'll push back too. It's like, what didn't we know? Like, we know he said the same things he's been saying for 7 years, and just giving him the microphone to say it again. I'll have to say that I'm glad a lot of people, even conservative commentators, push back on this idea that you put a Trump rally on CNN, which is exactly what it was, right? Yeah, right. Like,
I was going to say, that's exactly what they did. And I think that at some point we'll find out that there's a money trail, and we'll figure that out. But here's what I would say.
Yes,
I am looking very forward to Biden ads with the CNN clips. So that's
yeah. Let's talk about your boyfriend.
My boyfriend. He is my boyfriend.
Joe Biden. Let's talk about us. Let's get loud and proud. One thing we have learned from Simon Rosenberg, who's going to be at the Women's Summit, speaking on the, make sure you get your ticket, is that we do need to make sure that we don't follow the shiny image, the little shiny thing, again, talking about what other people want us to talk about. And that goes for Virginia. Our governor does not want to talk the fact that he wants to take away reproductive rights from women. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that he's banning books and, really, really pushing this divisive, harmful transgender policy against students, against teachers. He doesn't want to talk about all that, or how he wants to overturn voting rights. He wants to talk about this other salacious stuff. So we got to make sure that we're leading with our issues. Like, that's what we need to do. Talk about the things we've done.
Yeah. And so this is one of the things that I think is really important. And I hope that Democrats and all of us will take hold of this messaging. When I ran for House District, one of the things that came in very late was that President Biden endorsed all of our campaigns, which was really important. And I think that there are these local issues that we must care about, and we must talk about them, but we must also learn how to link them to our national issues and make sure that people understand that there is the state is what gets it done, but we still have to have our federal government. And part of that is acknowledging and recognizing the person who is leading our party. And so we have big issues that affect us. The debt issue affects all of us. I mean, we're talking about inflation, what will happen with the recession. So how do we talk about it? And I think I'm going to be excited to talk to Jody about this. But I think the way in which we talk about some of these things, the way that we talk about our president and keep lifting him up, it will lift us all up. And I just think that's important.
Yeah, and I think another thing with the media and journalism is really showing that this isn't normal to hold our country hostage, our in how we pay our bills. This is not normal. And I think, to me, when you don't get your way, you don't attack the Capitol, you don't try to overturn an election, you don't start this election lie thing. And if you don't get your way, you don't hold the country hostage. And I feel like they're like holding us hostage and then putting the faith and good credit of our country at risk. And I think that's how we should paint it. And everybody wants us to sort of, well, we should negotiate. Do we want to negotiate every time this comes up? Is this good governance? No. So I'm going to say that's my talking point for the day. It's not good governance to do this. And it's not normal to hold our country, hold us hostage. So
yeah, and I just would point out one other thing in terms of we still have to sort of wrestle with how we have the discussion so that people know what we're talking about.
Right.
So that is, debt ceiling. What we just can simply say is that we're paying for our bills. It's like having your credit card and now the balance is due and we owe that. That's it. And we wouldn't ask anyone else to do that. So I think just making the conversation as simple as we can, because we're always about being able to talk to our friends and family in a meaningful way that makes sense to them.
Absolutely. And with that, I would say I want to, talking about families and talking about how important it is, these issues. One is gun violence. There was this shooting today in Indianapolis. So with that, I'd like to call in Kelly Johnson to talk about, she's co-lead from Moms Demand Action. Come on into the conversation, Kelly. Let's talk about what your organization is doing, what you plan to be doing in this next, from today until this whole year. Just let's spill what's going on. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you all for having me on and having us on. I am here today representing Moms Demand Action. I am currently the deputy co-lead of the Alexandria local group, and we've got a lot going on right now. As many of you know, Moms Demand Action is 10 million volunteers strong in this country, founded by Shannon Watts in 2012. And probably the largest grassroots advocacy in terms of gun violence prevention. And first thing coming up is, as I alluded to earlier, is this Saturday, we've decided to really put a strong national focus out on reinstating the assault weapon ban and getting loud out on social media in our communities across the country. To say enough is enough. This most recent situation in Allen, Texas, and I'm sure you guys are like me. It seems like every morning we wake up to some new horror. And as a mental health professional myself, not only the horror of the lives lost and the survivors left behind, but the witnesses to these traumatic events and the children who are going through these endless shooter drills and just the trauma that is going on in our country. So we're focusing for Mother's Day of Action, reinstate the assault weapons ban. Here in Virginia, we have a statewide, we're going to all get on social media at 4:00 with a sign that says reinstate this assault weapons ban and save lives. And then we're going to post that on all of our social media at 4:00 on Saturday and tag our legislators. So that's just one thing. If you text RALLY, RALLY, to 64433. I've put it in the chat a couple of times, but text RALLY to 64433. That'll tell you where the Mother's Day of Action events, vigils, tabling, different kinds of things will be going on in your community. And this is, again, across the country. And then the next thing we have coming up, the first weekend in June every year since 2013 has been National Gun Violence Awareness Week. And here, and what we do on National Gun Violence Awareness Day, which is the Friday, June 2nd, is we wear orange and we gather in whatever ways different communities do a different way. Here in Alexandria, in Northern Virginia, we have a big rally in Old Town Alexandria in the Market Square, and we're going to be doing that again this year. I've put the link. If you're local in Northern Virginia, we would love for you to join us. But we get the word out. Wear orange is the color that hunters wear so they don't get shot. right? And it was also a young woman named Hadia Pendleton who died. She was a gun violence victim, and her friends gathered that first year in 2013 to honor her life and bring attention to this issue by wearing orange. So we wear orange, and can you see my shirt?
Yes, I could see it.
We can end gun violence, but it's going to take all of us. And we know that this is an important issue for progressive folks all over the country. And one of the other things Moms Demand Action does a lot is we get out there and get loud on behalf of gun sense candidates, because we know none of this is going to change unless we elect legislators who are not in the pocket of the gun lobby and gun manufacturers. And so one of the big things Moms Demand Action does is that candidates can apply to be a gun sense candidate and get that stamp of approval from Moms Demand Action, which is becoming more and more of a big deal for candidates. And so we continue. So I could go on and on, but let me stop and see what questions you have.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah, I do. I do have a question. I'm so glad to have you here. One of the questions that I have is, we know that I don't know what the percentage is, maybe 80% of people believe that there ought to be stronger gun regulation. And we know that crosses Republican and Democrats and independents. And so do you guys have a plan, or maybe I don't know about it, that in place that really pulls in Republicans to help them understand that unless they vote differently, nothing's going to change, because we need all of those votes?
Right. And part of that is just that constant drip, drip, drip. One of the things that I find really, really positive about being involved in the organization is that I get the news and hear the news all the time about what's happening at the state and local levels. And just a great reminder that we can't just focus on politics at the federal level, because that's not where change is happening. We've seen just in the last month, we have seen bipartisan bills that have come across in Michigan and in Colorado and in Washington state, really powerful, good, solid, sensible gun laws that honor both gun owners' right to bear arms, but also put in. So I think we're starting to see that crossover at the state and local level. And it's simply going to be, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act last summer was a huge, huge deal, because we did get 30 Republicans to be part of that. And as they see that this is not a toxic topic, we're seeing incredible movement at the grassroots level in Texas right now. And I come from Texas. My family owns guns in Texas. But we're seeing both Republicans and Democrats come together in Texas right now to demand change. So I think it's beginning, but we've got to continue, as you all say, to keep being loud, about these issues and continue to have conversation with our Republican brothers and sisters across the aisle.
So in this upcoming election, what do you have any particular plans? I mean, I know you'll be supporting certain candidates. Will you guys be knocking doors now, educating voters, or what's at risk, what's on the ballot? Is that one of could you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. Elections work is huge. And of course, we know here in Virginia, that's an every year thing, right? We never have a year off from politics. One of the things we're trying to talk more and more about here in the state of Virginia is that up here in Northern Virginia, we're a little bit more, we have a little more breathing room sometimes around these issues. And yet in very close by suburbs, we are fighting to keep that Democratic power in place at the state level. And so a lot of us get on vans, buses, whatever, and go west or go south to get out and canvass for in areas outside of our own area. So we do try to coordinate at the state level and see where those candidates are that need us the most.
Do you have any, like this past, I don't know if this is off topic for you right now, but this past session had any Republican movement around any of the gun bill, or just no interest whatsoever?
The only thing that happened, the only thing that got through at the state level was Delegate Alfonso Lopez was able to get bipartisan support for a bill to give a tax credit for secure storage. So if you buy a gun safe, then you get a $300 tax credit, right? And he actually unbelievably got the NRA to sign off on that, as well as both Republican and Democrat. But it was literally the only gun safety bill that got through. But we are thrilled that also we didn't lose any ground that we had gained when we had both houses back in 2021 and made such progress. So right now it's really about, holding the line until we can do the work we need to do in the fall.
No, excellent. Thank you for all that. And thank you for coming today. I know you're really busy. Everybody, this weekend, it is Mother's Day weekend. And as Kelly said, let's also honor our mothers and also do something about gun violence prevention. I mean, it's a lot of mothers today and fathers are grieving the loss, a lot of loss from their kids. This is a hard day to be a mom and know that you've suffered this loss. So, let's show up. Let's show up. You'll be in DC. What time again in DC? Right, it's a salt ban protest.
It's not an in person. It's on social media, 4:00.
I was ready to go down and
I know. No, this was a very sort of, we think we have some movement on Capitol Hill. So it's like we're moving fast to just get the word out.
You want to go to Capitol Hill with an orange sign? Be my guest.
That's right.
Social media, 4:00. Thank you, Kelly, for being here. We appreciate you.
You bet. You bet. Thanks for having me.
At the Women's Summit again,
of course.
You can't say it enough. We need to come together in July 22nd. We have so many great people to be there. And one, of course, we will have the new director of Moms Demand Action, Angela. And
wonderful.
Yeah. And help me with her last name, Robin, if you can find it, because I'm just blanking. But yes, we will have her speaking at the Badass Brunch.
Farrell Zabata.
Yes, there you go. Farrell, I called her.
She's
Angela.
Awesome. She lives here locally, and I've had the opportunity to meet her, and we're so thrilled to have her taken over.
I didn't have that written down. Apologize.
Good work. Yes, she's great. Y'all will love her.
Okay, so I'm handing this next really great segment over to you with Susan Labandibar of co-lead a Swing Blue Alliance. So for now, this is great, and we'll see you soon.
All right, thank you. Hi, Susan.
Hello. It's so great to be here.
Oh my goodness. It's so great to have you here. So we're going to talk about the Field Leaders Research Network. And so it is awesome. And I just have to say this before I let you get started. I cannot remember exactly how I got my first invitation, but I remember thinking, oh my God, all of these really, really smart people about all of this really great data, and they let me in. And so let's talk a little bit about Field Leaders Network and what you do, how you got started, and why it matters so much.
Well, I can't start before thanking you for what you're doing with this show, because it's also the empowerment, right? It's really around empowering grassroots leaders. And I just love the Friday Power Lunch and try to come whenever I can, because you get that same rush of, wow. It's just fantastic to see all these wonderful women doing amazing things. So thank you. Now, let's see. So you want to talk about the Field Leaders Research Network?
Yeah. About the Field Leaders Research Network.
All right. I think my first introduction to just even the idea that people like us could do research was back in 2019. And we were sending out 2-part postcards with a voter registration by mail, vote by mail registration to a city in Florida. And we had some precincts that we sent the postcards to and others that we didn't. And this is far in advance of the election. And our partners were giving us back the results. And we were seeing this kind of amazing thing, like no one was registering in the precincts before they got the postcard. And then the month that we sent the postcard, the registration shot up. And then the next month there was nothing. So it was quite clear that we were registering people to vote by mail and that was way before the pandemic even started. So that turned out to be a really great thing to do. And that's what got me hooked on research. Then later in 2021, we started to think, well, gee, what are we doing what we should be doing? Are we following up on our promises to ourselves to help make sure that our volunteers can do the most effective thing possible? Because they're spending so much time, they want their time to be well used. Mm-hmm. And so that's how we thought, well, let's see what the research says. And you're right, Fanal. In the very beginning, I thought, well, let's bring together all these eggheads. Say that more nicely. And it was this discussion I couldn't really follow. I mean, it was pretty. But then I can't remember who the first trailblazers were, but you were definitely one of them. People who actually just wrote postcards started to come in, and they contributed amazingly to the discourse because they were the people that really cared about the results. And so since then, it's been a balance of people who really have research backgrounds and people who don't. And it's worked really well. We've had about 20 guest speakers, and sometimes we just have all member meetings and we talk about the work that we're doing.
So Susan, this is why, so I'm going to sort of help people understand why this is so meaningful. So, when I came on, we having these conversations about postcards or some effort that was done. And really the question was, does it work? Is it meaningful to write postcards? Does it matter? It may be a standard deviation or statistically significant. And I'd go, oh, okay. But, these races are so close. If I write, 1,000 postcards and 2 people turn over, that's an election sometimes. So can we talk about some of the work that you've done and really as it relates to postcards or some of the other interesting things that you found out through this research that might not have been known?
Well, I mean, I guess the question is known by whom, right? So, and let me take myself as a prime example of what I didn't know, and so, a lot of times you see like one study, and if you're really not a researcher and you don't have the tools to really pull it apart, you can just be tempted to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? So, and that actually happened with one. There was an article in an op-ed in the New York Times that made an offhand reference to this study that looked like a really professional study, and the people, the researchers are people that have done a lot of research, and they said that according to this study, postcards decreased turnout. So I was like, okay, how could postcards possibly reduce turnout? Somebody's getting this and it's like, oh, somebody cared enough to write this postcard to me. Well, you know what? I'm going to spite them. I'm not going to go vote. No, it's not going to happen. So luckily, we brought on the firepower of the Field Leaders Research Network, and and they raised some serious questions with the study, and so that made us feel a lot better. And so that's one of the things that is an advantage of having this gathering of people who have a lot of years and years of perspective on how to evaluate studies. And I think the other thing that everyone needs to keep in mind as far as handwritten postcards is concerned is that it's still a very new field. And not only that, things are changing all the time. You need to constantly test what you're doing because messages lose their efficacy. Methods of reaching out to voters lose their efficacy. Voter contact as a whole is decreasing. So we need to constantly be on the lookout for things that can really make a difference. And having the Field Leaders Research Network is fantastic because we get a chance to talk about it and see what the research says and make an educated guess. And sometimes we guess wrong. Mm-hmm. And that's okay.
Yeah. So we've got just a few minutes. What's the thing that you're most excited and looking forward to that's coming up next that we can all get excited about?
Well, I guess apart from that, this Tuesday, I'm going to be talking about not postcards, but the results of our 17,000 calls that we made on behalf of groups on the ground to recruit canvassers, phone bankers, and other volunteers. And so I put the link to that in the chat. And then the other thing that I'm excited about is the project that we're working on with your crew with Postcards for VA about measuring things differently so that we're actually measuring how people vote. We can't do that individually, but on the precinct level, we're going to target some precincts with cards and some precincts without cards, and then we're going to see if we can see a difference. So we're really excited about that effort.
I'm really excited about it too. A lot of folks on this call might not know that Robin Warner is quite the expert too. So when I need some information before I got really comfortable with the Field Leaders Research Network, I could talk to Robin and she'd get me straight.
Yes.
So we're really, really excited about the work. I am so excited. And people should also know that you're quite the badass too, because I think that you actually went to Pennsylvania and you were on the ground there. So in just a few minutes, just share with us what you learned being on the ground.
Oh yeah, I would talk about it, dive into the deep end. It was unbelievable. I got to Berks County, Pennsylvania as a field organizer on September 27th and found that there basically had been almost no organizing and I had to do a whole GOTV campaign from scratch. And so I called in the cavalry. So I had people coming in from Massachusetts and from Maryland and from all over to just, please help me out because we need to cover this city. And so I found out that you can count on your friends, and that was a wonderful thing to find out.
Well, Susan, I am so happy to be connected with you and the Field Leaders Research Network. And we do have some really great conversations and we really come up with really great ideas. We get to test them. I'm looking forward to, because at the end of the day, it is women like you and the women on this phone who will actually end up solving what ails us. So thank you so much, Susan.
You are welcome. Thank you, Fanal.
Thank you. And so now we're going to bring up Jody, and I'm so excited to talk to her too. Hi, Jody. How are you?
Hello. I'm good. I'm just getting all these great ideas are buzzing and very and yeah, the previous speakers have just been so inspiring. So I'm feeling good.
I feel like I know you already from the Truth Brigade. You guys do amazing work. And we were having conversations about all that is nuts about this last CNN spectacle. But you guys do constant work regularly on making sure that disinformation gets corrected. So let's talk a little bit about what you do, what's so important right now, and what we should know.
Sure. And the first thing I should say is that the Indivisible Truth Brigade is a nonpartisan effort. And so we are not we don't push back against political parties or candidates or people. And that's intentional. So I'll speak to that again in a second. But I'll say it's intentional because it's effective. In this particular domain, it's really different from other kinds of, political messaging and other messaging that you might have heard. But now, so what is the Truth Brigade for folks who aren't familiar with it? The Truth Brigade is a grassroots effort to counter disinformation using real people sharing real messages, both online and offline, and it works. So we started the Truth Brigade about 3 years ago. Personally, I got involved because my background is in book publishing. So for 3 decades of my life, I worked as first an executive editor and then an agent. And so for me, the written word and journalism has always been sort of sacred. And just so you can see that once I personally got involved with political activism, that was where I went, which was how do we stop the lies that are poisoning our society and that underlie pretty much anytime we try to do something positive, it's the bad actors who are trying to and effectively blocking it by doing underneath nasty disinformation messages. So the intention of disinformation is really to damage and destroy democracy by dividing us. And it's not about a specific lie that someone might say. It's more about looking at what is the intent of the lie? You know, why is there a bad actor spreading this horrible and vile statement? Well, the reason is always about power and about profit. And so that's what our job is as individuals, because trusted messengers are the single most effective way that we can persuade people. It's all about everything that you can do and I can do as an individual, talking to people that we know, to convince them to open their minds and think twice about the lies that they hear.
So,
that was a lot, yeah.
And it was fantastic. And it's really interesting because I remember once I sent a tweet or something, and I said, I have the answer to the right kind of messaging. And I said, the best messengers and truth tellers are you. And the person said, I thought you were going to tell us something. So I'm happy to hear you say that. And I also think it's really important about the nonpartisan piece, because at the end of the day, truth is truth. And so let's talk a little bit about some of the kinds of things that you put out there, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, to sort of help people be able to have these conversations and to get these messages out.
Sure. Well, I'd like to answer that by first defining disinformation a little bit, because I think it's really important for everybody to distinguish between disinformation and misinformation, because disinformation, these are the lies that you hear. And you only need to remember one thing about disinformation, and that is it's intentional. As I mentioned earlier, the people who are trying to profit and gain their, either get lots of money or get lots of power, they're spreading the lies in order to make that happen. So it's very devious. There aren't a lot of people out there who are doing that. The problem is they have a lot of money already and they have a lot of power. But the number of places and organizations that actually initiate these lies, it's not giant, right? 85% of what we see as disinformation is actually misinformation. And misinformation, those are the same kinds of lies, but they're spread mostly accidentally, inadvertently, or through inattention. So everybody just think about that for a second and how great that is. I know that's kind of bonkers, but when you think about it, if someone is doing something that they are not trying to do, those are the people that you can persuade to think differently. And that's a lot of the population. So that's really exciting. And then now to answer your question about, what specific types of actions they might be able to take, we've done everything that the Truth Brigade does, all the messaging is based on an awful lot of research. Mm-hmm. And there was one study that we found particularly encouraging, which is if you can get someone to check a source, a single message on source checking, we're going to come back to that 15% figure again. A single message on source checking can reduce the spread of misinformation by 15%. Another thing
I hope everybody else is too.
Really positive, right? So that was an MIT study. And of course, there's a lot of more complication. Studies have all kinds of footnotes and caveats and all that. But that it is, an MIT study that's been verified. So what we did at the Truth Brigade is we commissioned also our own external study to see whether our messaging tactics, which we call a truth sandwich, hat tip to George Lakoff, who created that term. We wanted to test whether our system of fighting disinformation, our message structure, was effective in using the research that's been done before and then translating it to practical use. And we found the same thing. We found that our truth sandwich structure was also between 4 and 14% effective in persuading people who were going to share disinformation not to share it. So
That's
super
so
exciting.
important.
And our structure is really straightforward. It's 3 parts. You start with Persuasion 101, you find common values. You figure out if someone has said to you, I believe that COVID vaccines cause infertility, that could make, your mind just, you could get very upset by it, or you could think about, well, what could I possibly have in common with this person? Well, it's pretty simple. What you have in common is that you want to be healthy, right? We all want to be healthy. We all want to, people who want to have children want to have children. So you can find that common value. So all our messages open with just a simple statement of common values. And then the next thing is a simple suggestion that they check sources. It's not
That's
political,
awesome.
just
Just the facts. Well, it's been awesome. Catherine?
Yeah, I'm just
Any
excited.
questions?
No, I think it's so important what your work you're doing, and it's a great sandwich to eat. I'm all about a good sandwich, the big sandwich, and it's true. And it helps us remember. I know I'm doing Words That Win, a training that Indivisible is offering, and I think that's the great thing is all of us learning how not to spread these disinformation by retweeting or being outraged by it. So we appreciate the Truth Brigade in the room. Thank you for joining us, Jody. And anybody, please join the Truth Brigade. We need more truth tellers, that's for sure. And I want to make sure that we're still swinging along. So thank you, Jody. We're going to get up next with our next guest. I'm very excited to have Swing Left. And we want to do, let's do a quick Women's Summit pitch. If you want to put the graphic up real quick, because it will segue really nice with Matt since they will be tabling at the summit. All right, everybody, our tickets are on sale. You want to make sure you get your ticket now. It's still at the early rate, special early rate, only $149 for 3 days of action. There's no other place doing this, no other group doing this. So you just got to join, buy that ticket now. And even if you can't come, support our work. Buy a ticket for a student, buy a ticket with the scholarship, because we have rural candidates that I want to get here and students that want to get here. So that scholarship support helps us so much. And again, go to our website. We'll put that in there and check out everything. A special couple highlights I want to point out to everybody that we're amassing this postcard summit, which is going to be really exciting. All these groups are going to be there. We have all this great breakouts just around postcards, thanks to Michelle McKinney and Robin Warner and all the postcard groups. And then we're also going to do all kind of program for candidates and especially school board, like a mini summit for them. And like I said, coming out of the gate on Friday night with a grassroots rally event, Saturday morning, we have an advocacy fair. Thank you for all our tablers, and we will be swinging into action all weekend. We have some great guests, and please, we'll release that agenda soon. But I don't want to take up a lot of our time because I want to get to Matt, who will be swinging in this weekend, that weekend, July 22nd and 23rd. So Matt, let's get right to it. And oh, good, the baby is here.
Yes, this is Kay, everybody.
Yeah.
We're fighting for her rights and bodily autonomy just as much as everybody else is. So,
well, you're swinging, keep swinging. I like it. Let's talk about what you're doing with Swing Left. His targets are in Virginia. A lot of people are familiar with you. So let's give a quickie about Swing Left, get into your targets, and then talk about some of these great programs you're talking about for Virginia.
Absolutely. So, right. The idea from Swing Left is that together we can defeat the radical right and protect our democracy, and that a more equitable society is possible if we elect consistent Democratic majorities now and over the long haul. The GOP has declared themselves as against democracy, which means the path to protecting democracy is to beat them by electing Democrats. That's what we do here at Swing Left. And for Virginia, we have selected 13 targets spread out across the Senate and the House. We want to hold the Senate, win back the House, block the governor's radical extreme agenda on abortion, on education, on democracy across the board. We know how important that is. And our message to you all is that we cannot wait to take action, and we cannot waste our action on things that don't really move the needle, right? We need to look at where the work is needed, which districts are the most competitive, and which tactics are the highest impact. And then we need to do those things as much as we can, and as much as we can get the people in our lives to do those things as well. So
So the 13, do we find them on your website, the 13 targets, or are you sort of not doing that yet?
We're not doing it yet. We, while I'm happy, at some point I'll put my email in the chat. Apologies, I can't at this exact moment. But we are happy to tell you what the list is, but we are not publishing it anywhere publicly because we're waiting for a splashier media announcement when we are ready to make that publicly available.
Yeah, I mean, we could all take a bet on it. I'm sure I'm teasing. No, I love it.
Nothing's going to surprise anybody, I'm sure.
Right? But I think it's so important that what's great about the Indivisibles, the Swing Lefts, all these groups, and I think Swing Alliance was a Swing Left group at one time, right? And we're talking how we're all working together and everybody kind of finding their lane. And I'm excited about the groups that could be funneled in to help and maybe get into action with what you're proposing too. So talk about some of those ideas you have to kind of up the vote or educate voters. What is this postcard, triple postcard initiative you're doing?
Yes. So one of the things we have found since the pandemic is that it's been hard to get people out to knock on doors, but we know that knocking on doors is one of the most effective things people can do. Quite possibly the most effective thing a person can do to increase voter turnout, to do persuasion, all of those things. But campaigns are also struggling to hire good staff, to get their canvassing programs started. A lot of our campaigns are not ready to canvass yet. And we're like, come on, we got to get going. Yes. People need time to organize. They need time to get trained. They need time to figure out how to do this, especially for our wonderful groups that travel sometimes hours from their home communities to go knock doors in Virginia. And so we have launched an early canvassing program where you can get data from us, from Swing Left, to go knock doors in Virginia and in any district, but especially in our 13 targets. And we will send you these amazing vote tripling postcards. They are really cool. The idea is you take them to the door of a likely Democratic voter and you say, thank you for voting in a recent election. I always vote because I'm fighting to prevent gun violence in my kid's school. Why do you vote? And then you let them answer that question. And then you say, that's wonderful. Will you remind 3 of your friends to vote and fill out this postcard so we can remind you to do it? And then you hold on to that postcard and you mail it back to them right before the election. This strategy is based on really strong research that suggests that a conversation you have at somebody's door months before an election is not particularly likely to change their behavior on election day. But if you can get something from them and send it back to them, that can be incredibly impactful. We're talking 1-2% increase in their likelihood to vote. And then they are going to, by making this a vote tripling ask, they're going to reach out to their friends and neighbors and remind them to vote as well. So your impact increases even more. So we're really excited about this. We'll send you the postcards for free. We'll give you the data for free. Just reach out to us. I'm going to press enter on my keyboard without dropping my daughter, because we've got a link where you can sign up if you want to get involved. And there's a whole host guide. If you've never done anything like this before, you can do it. I promise. It's not rocket science, and our organizers are happy to kind of hold your hand as you do that.
So when you're cutting that turf, let's say I want to go out and for Michael Feggans, he's going to be next up. We want to do something for Michael, and then. But let's just say, do I coordinate with you? You coordinate with him? Are you guys, so when are you guys kind of work that out then so they know what we're all doing, or how are we handling that?
That's a great point. For campaigns where there's already a campaign on the ground canvassing, we direct you to them. This is really for the places where the campaigns are not on the ground yet. And then once they are on the ground, we are happy to send them an in-kind contribution with the data file from every bit of data that you all generate as you're out there knocking doors, talking to people. So we're trying to not step on toes or duplicate efforts, but also not sort of be held up as campaigns try to get their act together.
No, I think that's really important. I know that in the last election here, I wanted to get a turf for myself, for my neighborhood, and it was like pulling teeth, literally, to get that turf. And that's all I wanted, but we weren't allowed to get into the data. It was ridiculous. I don't want to get into it, but I love what you're doing. So thank you for being here, and we will see you in July. And beforehand, I want everybody to really join the leadership calls. You have them every Thursday now, or is it every other? Is it pretty much every Thursday?
It's actually it's just monthly, but our next one is on Thursday.
Right.
If you are a leader of a local grassroots group, we would love to have you join. We do these monthly calls supporting grassroots organizing. And I'll try to get my email in the chat. If you want to be on that list, let me know.
Join it. That's how I met Simon Rosenberg, was on your call, doing great work. And it's been great to be in action with you. So thank you. Thank you. I'll let you get back. Enjoy your weekend and wishing you all the best. And we will see you in Virginia. Swing it in. Thank you,
Thanks.
Matt. And Michael Feggans for delegate, House District 97. We know that you need to get on call time. You're not going to let you goof off. So we're going to have you here. We wanted to bring you on because, well, one, we want to call attention to this race down there. Two, we know that Sister District and Swing Blue both have you in their target as a target race. You're a popular guy. How does that feel?
Well, first off, I love your suggestion about cutting turf. That's exactly what we need right now. We've been so we launched the campaign a year ago. And so we have the Democratic nomination, and so we're on to the general.
Right.
And what we need now, of course, is dials, dollars, and doors. So right now, we have a great canvassing operation already going on.
Oh, great.
We've been dropping lit since last year, and the minute we were able to get the maps and van access we needed. So we've been on the doors since around January, February. So every
Wait,
weekend.
you're saying you don't have van access right now?
No, I'm saying we do. Yeah.
Oh, I got to say, I was like, what's
yeah.
going on? We got to break that door down. What?
Yeah, no. Yeah. So the minute we were authorized,
You got the van access.
Yeah, we got the access. Every Saturday we have canvassing down here in Virginia Beach, getting on with our priority precincts. The reason that that House District 97 is getting a lot of attention is because it's such a swing district. Unfortunately, my great friend Alex Askew was unable to defeat my opponent, Delegate Karen Greenhall, and he lost unfortunately by 120 votes. And when we're looking at this race this year, it's going to be another close margin, even with the new maps and everything happening. The district came just maybe a 0.52, a little bluer. It's going to be a race to make sure to get our voters out. And when we're looking at Delegate Karen Greenhall, she's out of touch. She's out of touch because of her extreme views on being so anti-choice, her legislation against LGBTQ, and especially when we're looking at her transgender bill, which when not only was it demonizing some of the most vulnerable in our population, economically it was hurtful because it was going to require every single child from kindergarten until college to have a medical appointment checked for them to play sports. And so normally you get that done by nurses, and you might pay $25 or $50 to a school nurse to have a physical done to play club sports or to play intramural sports. Or what her bill was going to require was to have a medical professional. So that was it was going to hurt some of the most vulnerable and keep them from playing. So
we're talking about a medical appointment to sort of check your gender.
Yes. Like to play sports, to play even club sports, not even like high school football. This could have just been like a club that wanted to play lacrosse.
I mean, that's terrifying. I would think if I'm 10 or 11, 12 years old, that I'd have to have somebody look at my private parts to play sports. Is that what we're talking about here, Mike?
That's what we're talking about in the bill. And the bill even went even worse to where it potentially could have prevented colleges from playing against each other, private schools from playing other public schools if they didn't abide by this bill. So potentially VCU couldn't have played University of Richmond in the NCAA tournament because of this bill. Yeah.
I mean, we saw these bills. In fact, one thing I noticed too, there's a good article just came up on the AP, was about the just amount of anti-trans bills coming through all these GOP red held districts. And I think what's important about your race is that holding the Senate and increasing actually in the House and taking back that power is going to offer a lot of protections to the citizens. And I think common sense ones, and so it's really important. What are you finding on the doors in Virginia Beach? And in general, like you said, I was knocking down there for Aaron. We all went down and knocked for Alex. And there's to be, the problem was really getting people on those doors and talking to voters. And I'm glad you're doing it early. And what are you finding? Did people not last time? And now they're voting. I mean, what the hell happened? And why are we going to be different this time? What makes it different? You?
I'm hoping that, my background resonates, of course, with
Yes.
being from here, being a 20-year military veteran, coming back home, being a small business owner, and resonates. And so, but what we're seeing here is that, what happened in 21 in terms of them weaponizing CRT, having Governor Youngkin now. Governor Youngkin was actually just down here last weekend fundraising for my opponent this early. And that's because we've been able to outwork her in lots of areas, and especially over with fundraising. So while, that's for an incumbent to be beaten 3 times in reporting periods by a candidate who's never run for office before, they know that they're in trouble. And so now when we're on the doors, it's and when we're talking with voters, it really is reproductive rights. And so for me, I look at it as simple. I served for 20 years as a healthcare administration, healthcare IT in the Air Force, and I look at it as simple as the decision should be between a patient and the provider, and that's it. And individuals in Richmond don't have shouldn't be involved in these decisions. And that's the message that we're going forward with. And when we're on the doors, that's the number one message, between that and education, supporting our educators, supporting our educational staff. This is Teacher Appreciation Week. And so my mother is a retired public school teacher here in Norfolk. So I know how hard our teachers work. I know what they go through day to day. And thankfully, and we'll be announcing this today. So this group will be learning firsthand is that we received the VEA endorsement, and so to have their support of what our educators and our teachers and their support staff to get behind this campaign, and showing the importance of education, and not only just the importance of education, supporting the educational infrastructure, making sure that our schools are safe, making sure that our schools have the proper refitment is important for this campaign. And that's what we're hearing on the doors.
Yes.
And that's the messaging we're have that we're going to win in November 7th.
I love it. It's so important. All this touches at the doors. And I know that people can write postcards for you, text, phone bank. And if you can travel down to Virginia Beach, we would definitely be hitting the door, especially our groups will be coming down when we get into September and October. But you can canvass now if you're down in Virginia Beach. Yeah. Michael, I wish you well. Thank you for your service to our country. I mean, you served in Operation Enduring Freedom, and we still, or it seems like in our own country, we need to make sure that we are operating every day to maintain our freedom and democracy. So we're thrilled that you're running, and thanks for coming. We'll see you. Hopefully you have the summit on your radar, because we have a lot of stuff happening for candidates.
I purchased my ticket, and we know that the pathway to flipping the House of Delegates and having Leader Scott be Speaker of the House runs through Hampton Roads and specifically through Virginia Beach.
Yes, you're right. And we're going to make sure that we have that on our mind. Even though it's up in Nova, we'll be down. We've come down to Virginia Beach.
We appreciate it. We'll be up there soon.
Yeah, I saw you. We had a nice time down there visiting you last year. So great to meet you then, and great to see you again. And I know we'll get you on call time, and we're going to wrap up our show. And if anybody could stay for the after chat, please do. So what a great show. I hope you guys are all ready to swing into action. It's a great weekend. Make sure you show up, you say something this week, and you do something, and you don't forget a mother or your role model that's a mother to you this weekend. And we appreciate everybody coming in, and we appreciate that the patrons that support us every week to keep the lights on, to have us do our work and invest in women that are unstoppable and badass and making it happen. So thank you for supporting us, and thank you for becoming a patron if you're thinking about it. And also, I want to thank you to our great team, Fennell Norton, Show Messenger, Robin Warner up there, Show Wizard, Sarah Calhoun, Ambassador of Buzz. And we also have Heidi Dragneff, the social media diva, Dennis Orsinger, graphic designer, Michelle McKinney, chat liaison. Have any issues? Want to learn about us some more? Just directly message Michelle. And our Zoom helpers, we have Laura Martinez, letting people in the room and helping, and our content concierge extraordinaires, Julie Galdo, Alvina McCall, and Sally Renholt. I want to say a special hello. I saw Pearl come in the room earlier from California. Pearl, great to see you in the room if you're still here, and hopefully you'll stay for the after chat. And goodbye, Facebook. We're going in a little bit. We're going to go to the other side and join us in the after chat. Let's wrap it up, Robin.